Right, so we're going to continue on with percents. And up to this point, what we have talked about is how to find the percent of a number. If we have the percent, or if we have part, if we have whole, how to find the missing piece of that proportion or that equation. And then we started looking at how to find some real world applications like markups and discounts. So we're going to continue on with those real world applications, and we're going to look at how to find what's called sales tax and tips, something that I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard about before. But what sales tax is, it is an additional amount of money that is charged on items that people have to buy. And so anytime you go to the store, if something costs $10, you don't pay $10 for it. You have to pay $10 plus the tax that you add to it. Similar to that is a tip. A tip is a small amount of money that is given in return for a service, and we usually call that gratuity. Usually call that gratuity. So if you need to pause this and get these words down, we'll talk about them. So sales tax, the reason why sales tax is in percents is because sales tax is always a percent. And so it depends on the state that you go to as to what the sales tax is. In Indiana, it is, I believe, 7%, and 7.5%, I think. In Kentucky, where I grew up, it was 6%. And so what that means is whatever percent the sales tax is, whatever item you buy, there is going to be that percent of the amount of money that the item costs added on to the price. And so if you buy something for $1 and the sales tax is 7%, you would pay $1 plus the 7%, and it would be $1.07, because 7% of a dollar is 7 cents. So that's what sales tax is, and that's added on to just about everything that people buy. A tip or a gratuity, it is only given if there is a service. So think about some things that are services, such as a haircut, or like DoorDash. If somebody is delivering groceries or delivering food to you, that is a service. Something like, I'm trying to think of what else tip, a pizza delivery man. That is a service, and we usually tip those people for the service that they give. A waiter or a waitress at a restaurant, they are serving you, and so you tip them at the end. Now, there is never a set amount that you have to tip somebody, but usually the way that tips are calculated is using a percentage of what you paid. If you pay $100 for whatever you need for groceries, and you only tip the person $5, that usually doesn't match what you should tip them. And so usually the tips should be a certain percentage of what you paid. A lot of times at restaurants, a tip is around 20%. So you take what you paid and you add on the 20%, and then that's around what you should tip your waiter or your waitress. So we're going to be using that knowledge of sales tax and tips to find them today. The way that you would find sales tax is actually the same that you would find a markup. So think back to when we found markups. It's the total cost is the regular price plus the sales tax. And then there's two methods that we could use to find the sales tax. We could either find the amount of tax and add that to the regular price. And this method is exactly like what we did for markups. That's how method one is how we're going to find it most of the time. Method two would be you add the percent to 100%. So if it's a 6% sales tax, you would multiply that price by 106%. Either way is works as long as you add the sales tax to the regular price. One other thing to note, you're going to see some questions that say that tax is included. If tax is included, that means you do not have to find it. You don't have to calculate sales tax. So those are the two methods that you could use to find sales tax. The other, for tips, you're going to find tips the exact same way that you found sales tax. So for both sales tax and for tips, you add the extra amount to the regular price. And then a very important point is right here. So if you have to find the tax and the tip in the same question, you find both of them separately, and then you add both to the regular price. So notice you are going to add them at the very end. You don't find the sales tax and then add it and then find the tip. Sales tax and tip are always taken out of the regular price. So you find them separately, sales tax out of the regular price, tip out of the regular price. You go to the very end and you add everything together at the end. Okay, so we find sales tax and tips the same exact way. And it's actually the same way that we would find markups. So let's look at some examples then. So the first one, Drew wants to buy exercise equipment that costs $140 and the sales tax is 5.75%. We've got to find the total cost. Well, think about your knowledge. Sales tax is always added on, you plus tax. The first thing that we had to do is change the percent to a decimal. It is a decimal, 5.75%. But remember, no matter what, if we're changing percent to a decimal, we always want to move our decimal point 2 times to the left. So that is going to become 0.0575. Remember that 5% is 0.05. And so we just make it 5% and then add on the 75 at the end. So we're going to change that to a decimal first. Second step would be to multiply. We're going to do 0.0575 times the price, which is 140. And now we multiply this out. 30. Don't forget to add your zeros every line that you multiply. Okay, and so what we're going to get is 80500, but make sure that you move your decimal point the right amount. We're going to move our decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the left. And so the tax is going to be $8.05. So the tax is $8.05. So then the last step to do is we've got to find the total cost. And so what we're going to do is add 140 plus that $8.05. And so the total cost of this equipment would be $148.05. $148.05. So sales tax is found by changing the percent to a decimal, multiplying it by the regular price, and then adding it at the very end. Okay, so what I want you all to do is pause the video right now and do this one. One thing that I will help you with is I would change that 5.5% to 5.5%. It's the same thing. It's going to be a little easier to work with that. So go ahead, pause the video, and work this problem out. Okay, so 5.5% or 5.5%, when we move the decimal point 2 times to the left, that would become 0.055. Step 2, we're going to multiply that by $42, so 0.055 times 42, and we get $2.31. And so the tax would be $2.31. So the third step and final step would be to add, and we're going to take $42 and add that $2.31. And so the total price would be $44.31. Okay, so that's sales tax. Now let's look at our tips, okay, finding tips. And the way that we find tips is the same way that we find sales tax, the same way that we found markups. So a customer wants to tip 15% on a restaurant bill, that is $35. What would the total bill be? They don't say anything about tax, so don't worry about it. If they don't say anything about sales tax, you don't have to find that. We're just going to go ahead and do this like normal. So 15%, we're going to change that to 0.15. Step 2, we're going to multiply that by the price of the bill, which was $35. So 35 times 0.15, and we'll see what we get. Move our decimal point twice, and we get the tip is $5.25. So step 3, once again, tips are added onto the bill. So it's going to be $35 plus $5.25. And so the total cost of this meal, when everything's said and done, is $40.25. So that's the total bill that they would have to pay with the tip. Okay, so tip, once again, those same 3 steps that we've been doing. So I want you all to pause the video and go ahead and find the total cost for this question. All right, so the first thing that we would want to do is change that 20%. We'll make it 0.2 or 0.20, 0.20. Multiply that by 15. And that gets us 3.0. So the tip would be $3. And then step 3, we're going to add that on to the total cost, which was 15. 15 plus 3. The total cost for this commute would be $18. So that's sales tax and tips. Didn't take us too long to get through that because, like I said, it's pretty much the same things that we were doing in our last lesson with markups and even discounts, except discounts we just subtract. So for sales tax, for tips, for markups, we're adding. For discounts, we're subtracting, but the same first 2 steps for all 4 of those. So the last one that I want to look at kind of combines both of these together. A haircut costs $20. Sales tax is 4.75%. The question is $25 sufficient, or is this enough to cover the haircut with tax and if we tip 15%? So now we've got to find how much is it going to cost, the $20 plus the sales tax plus the tip. So one thing I want to point out, every time you have to add both of those together, sales tax is added to the $20 and the tip is also out of $20. So we don't add anything until the very end. That means what we're going to do is first find the tax, and the tax is going to be 4.75%. So we'll do this real quick. 4.75%, that's going to be 0.0475. Okay, we're going to do that times the $20 that it costs for the haircut. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is find the tip, and the tip is 15%. 15% would be 0.15. I'll write it right here. 15% tip is 0.15. We're going to do that 0.15 once again times the cost of the haircut. So notice that we're multiplying both the tax and the tip by $20. We don't add anything yet. So what I suggest, if you've got to find both of those, or say you've got to find the discount and the tax, or you've got to find the markup and the tax, we're going to find both of those out of the regular price. We'll add at the very end. So the tax here, 0.0475 times 20, we go ahead and multiply this out. Right, and that tax should, I think it might have multiplied wrong. Did something wrong. Yes, I did. Give me 1 second. I did 4 times 7 and not 2 times 7. 2 times 7 is 14, and 14 plus 2. I'm sorry. I was thinking of 20. All right, so this is a 2. 2 times 5 is 10. That was going to be 10, 14, 15. I'm thinking slow today. All right, and then that's going to be 9. There we go. All right, so that's going to end up being 0.9500. Now we got that all squared away. So the tax is going to be 95 cents. All right, now let's find the tip, and let's hope that I do my multiplication correctly. We get 2 zeros there. 2 times 5 is 10. And then 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3. So that's going to be $3, 3.00. So the last thing that I'm going to do is find the total cost. To find the total cost, I take that $20 plus the $3 tip plus the 95 cents. That was the tax. So total cost plus the tip plus the tax. And when I add that together, I get $23.95. So let's answer the question. Is $25 sufficient? Yes, $25 will cover everything. And that would be our answer. So if you've got to find the sales tax and the tip in the same question, what you need to do is find sales tax out of the regular price, then find the tip out of the regular price, and then you add everything at the very end. And then we can answer whatever question they have for us. Okay, so that is sales tax and tips. A couple of nice real world examples dealing with percents. So you all can go ahead and work on the practice problems, and then hopefully you understand all of this.